What's up, everyone? Welcome back to a new YouTube show, and it's less than a week remaining before the end of the summer transfer window in Serie A and in most European leagues as well. So, what are Serie A clubs about to do in the last 6 days, practically, of the summer transfer window? What's strange in Serie A is that every club, pretty much every top side, has to make at least one more signing to complete the team. There could be one or two exceptions, but mostly all the top sides, all the clubs involved in the race for the Champions League will be looking to add more new faces to their teams before the end of the summer transfer window on September 1 at 8 p.m. local time in Italy, so it's 7 p.m. UK time. Let's start with defending champions Napoli. They are on the verge of signing Rasmus Højlund, according to various sources and transfer experts. Ourselves at Football Italia, we know that an agreement is closed for 45 million. It's a loan deal with an obligation to buy, or actually it's an option to buy, but tied to pretty simple targets to be achieved by Napoli in the current campaign. And Sky Sport Italia reported today that Højlund could have joined Napoli even this week. He could join Napoli even this week. Napoli are moving quick to sign the ex-Atalanta striker because they need a replacement for Romelu Lukaku, who got injured during the preseason. And so Rasmus Højlund has been pretty much all the time the number one target for Napoli, and is one of those signings that you really have to expect in the next few days, because Napoli and Manchester United are finalizing the last few details for the deal to be completed. The player is pretty much convinced as well. He wasn't too happy to leave Manchester United on an initial loan deal, but Napoli convinced him because, again, the deal structure will practically ensure that Højlund joins Napoli on a permanent transfer next season. So it's nearly a permanent transfer, not exactly expected to be a permanent transfer from the very beginning because of financial reasons as well. But it's not the only target for Napoli. The Partenopei are expected to make one more signing in midfield. They've been in talk with RB Leipzig for Elif Elmas, one of their former players and the Scudetto winner under Luciano Spalletti. You know, he can play in different roles. He can play as an attacking midfielder, as a box-to-box midfielder. When he went on loan at Torino, he played as a left winger, basically, in the second part of 2024-25. So if they sign Elmas, they may drop Juan Sanchez of Sevilla, but the Spaniard is also a target of Napoli. They've been in talks with Sevilla and with the player. They were in talks a few weeks ago, if not months, but the deal has been on hold for a while now. So it's not sure Napoli will complete this transfer. So I would say Højlund 99%, Elmas I would say a good 70%. Juan Sanchez is below 50% because currently Napoli have put negotiations with the player and with the club on hold. Sevilla. As for Inter, technically they still need a centre back. There were many names linked with the Nerazzurri in recent days. There was Omar Solé from Udinese, Bayern Munich per Kim and Dalot Upamecano, but currently there aren't ongoing negotiations between Inter and any other club for some centre backs. They still need, not necessarily need to sell, but they have to see whether they can sell Pavard to an interested club. There are rumors about Galatasaray and some Saudi teams. Not too much about Lille, because the Lille president said they can't afford Benjamin Pavard. So Inter could sign a centre-back regardless of Pavard's sale, and are currently looking for a centre-back in the summer transfer window, but it's not guaranteed that they will go after a centre back. So let's see what happens. Meantime, they've sent Thomas Palacios to Santos on loan with an option to buy for 10 million. And Fabrizio Romano reports that if Santos make the defenders move permanent next season, then Inter will have a 30% sell-on clause on the Argentine defender, who joined Inter just a year ago, but played 6 months, actually trained for 6 months with Inter, because he just made 3 appearances with the Nerazzurri. Then he joined Monza on loan last season, but he's going to Santos. Basically, his time at Inter is finished. of course, you need to see whether next season Santos will make his move permanent for 10 million. Juventus is another club that will be looking to sell players probably before making new signings. Arthur is basically a new Gremio player. They're selling Thiago Giallo to Besiktas. Thiago Giallo returned from a very disappointing loan spell at Porto, and he returned. He played a few games in the preseason for Juventus, but it didn't really impress Tudor. So they're finding a way out for the Portuguese defender, and Besiktas are very close to sign both him and El Bilal Touré of Atalanta, a striker who was also on loan last season. There is an offer, according to Alfredo Pedula, of Nottingham Forest for Nicolo Savona. He's currently injured, so he wasn't in the Juventus team for the win against Parma on Sunday. But Juventus generally, they're listening to offers for almost all of their players. It's not the case for just a few of them. For example, Manuel Locatelli had an offer from Al Ahly, but Juventus rejected it, and the player rejected it as well. So Savon is one of those players who could leave, I think, for an appropriate offer. Currently, there is this Nottingham Forest offer on the table. There is Premier League interest for Lloyd Kelly as well. Gazzetta reported Sunderland and Crystal Palace keen on the English centre-back. Again, if he leaves, surely Juventus are going to sign a new centre-back, but if nobody leaves in defence, then they're pretty likely to stick as they are. The biggest question mark is on whether they will sign a new right wing-back, because Kalulu started in that position against Parma, quite surprisingly, leaving João Mario on the bench. So there are a few reports today about a possible swap deal with Milan involving Alexis Saelemaekers and Dusan Vlahovic, and there are still ongoing talks with Atletico Madrid for Molina, the same Atletico Madrid that it is interested in signing Nico Gonzalez from Juventus. Again, I expect first sales from Juventus and then potentially new signings. Personally, I think Juventus need a right back, because the fact that João Mario didn't start against Parma is not a good sign. What Tudor needs on that part of the pitch is a wing back, but not an attacking wing back. So this is why Nico Gonzalez didn't start in that position against Parma. He wants somebody who can potentially play as a right back, so we can attack and defend equally well. And João Mario is probably still not at that level. Very similar to Alberto Costa, who joined Porto in a swap deal with João Mario. He had been improving, Alberto Costa, especially during the Club World Cup, but then there was a good financial and technical opportunity for Juventus. But currently they don't have a player who's ready-made and plug-in, ready to go on the right flank. The situation may change when Juan Cabal returns from an injury, so he can play on the left and Cambias on the right, but still Tudor wouldn't have a lot of options anyway. So I still think they need a right wing back before the end of the summer transfer window, and there are a few negotiations and talks, even if not negotiations currently are in advanced stage. Zegrova of Lille is another target for Juventus in attack, and is a player who could potentially replace Francisco Conceição, or actually fight for a starting spot with Francisco Conceição. Contract expires in 2026. He doesn't want to extend with Lille, and Juventus, they've been chasing this player Zegrova for quite a long time. Now they have a principle of agreement with the player, as reported by Tuttosport a few days ago. But of course, they need to convince Lille. And I think if Juventus don't sell any player before the end of the transfer window, they will be struggling to sign Zegrova. But if he doesn't sign in the current transfer window, keep an eye on him, because he's going to be a recurring name, especially for Juventus, because he's somebody that Damien Comolli knows really well, because, the new Juventus director comes from France. And so he keeps a close eye on players coming from the Ligue 1, just like Jonathan David, who was a teammate of Zegrova at Lille. Fast forward to Milan. Shocking start to the season. There will be time to discuss this. They're close to signing. They practically signed Konrad Hader from Sporting Lisbon. It's possible that Harder won't be available for the next game against Lecce in Serie A, which is going to be played on Friday, because according to reports, he's not going to complete his move to Milan before possibly Friday, the same day of the game against Lecce. This is why Sporting need to sign a replacement, and so until they sign a replacement, which is likely to come between Thursday and Friday, they won't be allowed to send Harder to Milan for medical examinations. This is at least the latest report that I've heard from Sky Sport, from the great experts at Sky Sport Italia. You all know Milan had an agreement with Victor Boniface and Bayer Leverkusen, but that deal fell apart because of unconvincing medical tests on the Nigerian striker. For Milan, another very interesting talking point, same as Juventus, is Dusan Vlahovic. The goal against Parma, and you can go and check one of my oldest video, one of the older video from the Allianz Stadium this past weekend after Juventus Parma. Vlahovic scored a goal, but this didn't really change the situation for Vlahovic at Juventus, especially because Juventus want to avoid losing him on a free transfer. So, they're waiting for offers, but currently there aren't many proposals for Vlahovic, and Vlahovic wants to keep the same salary that he has at Juventus, which is around 12 million a year, including add-ons for the final year of his contract in Turin. So it's a pretty complicated situation, because I was talking about Saelemaekers Vlahovic possible deal before. Even if Juventus managed to convince Milan, then Milan would need to convince Vlahovic, and for sure they're not going to offer 12 million a year to the Juventus striker. So I don't think it's a situation that can be unlocked so quickly in the final 6 days, but you never know, because Vlahovic knows he's not going to be a regular starter at Juventus, and so who knows, perhaps Juventus may pay, they may be forced to pay a payout as well if they want to convince Vlahovic to go, so pay part of his salary. If he goes to another club and needs to get a pay cut, they can cover the part of wages missing. But again, this is something that is going to evolve possibly in the next 6 days. Currently, there isn't any club who is such at an advanced stage with Vlahovic and Juventus. So currently, the most likely option for Vlahovic is to stay at Juventus, but this doesn't mean he will extend his contract, because he's likely to leave at the end of the season as a free agent, when he can decide to join any other club and possibly have even a higher salary as well. Last but not least, there's Roma. There is a new signing incoming, same as Napoli with Højlund and Milan with Harder. Is Jan Zilkowski from Legia Warsaw, centre back, 20 years old, done deal for 6 million. So he's going to be one more central defender added to the Gianpiero Gasperini squad after Daniele Ghilardi and after Mario Hermoso as well, who's returned from a loan at Bayer Leverkusen and has convinced Gasperini, so he's going to stay the Spaniard in the capital, fight for a starting spot. But now there's another promising defender incoming from Legia Warsaw, and he's going to join Roma in the coming days, so expect an announcement anytime, I would say in the next 1 or 2 days. The biggest talking point for Roma is whether they're going to sign Jadon Sancho. There were updates from Ricky Massara, the Roma director, and Gianpiero Gasperini over the weekend. Massara called the Jadon Sancho deal a suggestion, because he said, he almost suggested that Roma were never an advanced talk for Sancho. But the truth is, Roma had an agreement with Manchester United. They still have an agreement with Manchester United, but the striker's agent, the winger's agent, doesn't want to make the move yet. He's taking time. Gasperini gave a slight different version, saying Sancho never said no to Roma. So, it was more of a confirmation that Roma had been in advanced talk with Sancho and spoke directly to the player. Clearly, both Massara and Gasperini agreed that Sancho is not entirely motivated to join Roma. But again, when end of the transfer window approaches, many things can change because players realize they won't be getting any playing time. This is something that Sancho has been knowing for a long time, to be fair. But the end of the transfer window is approaching, and also, as reported by Pedulà on Football Italia, Manchester United may even use a clause to extend Sancho's contract until 2027, so he doesn't leave as a free agent in 2026 because the plan for Sancho and his agent would be leave on a free transfer in 2026, same as Vlahovic, and so try to get more money and a higher salary from any club that he can pick at that point. So Manchester United would be likely to ruin this plan by offering a new, not even offering, but just activating the clause to extend Sancho's contract. In the meantime, Massara is in London to talk, to discuss the Sancho deal, but also a deal for Tariq George, winger of Chelsea, who has the same agent as Jadon Sancho, which makes the whole thing a little bit strange because he should be pushing for Sancho, and on the other hand, he's asking information about this promising Chelsea winger as well, but apparently he's even more expensive than Sancho, so it's not on paper, on the pitch, it wouldn't be a signing as important as Sancho. First of all, because again, for the club, it wouldn't be ideal because it's more expensive than Sancho. And on the pitch, Gasperini wants somebody who's ready to go and ready to help the team with experience and quality and all the things that he needs from attacking midfielders to create even more chances in his Roma side. So is by far Sancho the favorite target of Gianpiero Gasperini, but it remains to be seen whether Massara will eventually convince the Manchester United winger. This is just the latest transfer rumors about Serie A clubs. It's been a pretty quiet transfer window, I have to say, because there weren't many big signings. Some top signings, we've already seen them. Kevin De Bruyne is probably the most important signing of the summer in Serie A. He's joined Napoli, but all the other clubs, they haven't made many moves. So this is why the last 6 days of the transfer window will be so busy, because all the top Serie A clubs still need to sign somebody. So really keep in touch and check all the news all the time, because anything can happen in any moment. And I'll just be here to tell you. So keep in touch and come back as soon as possible. Meantime, let me know in the comment section what's the deal that you expect from Italian clubs in the last 6 days of negotiations, and also which player you would like to see in your club in 2025-26. We speak very, very soon again. Thank you for watching. Bye.